Hey everyone, sitting here on a Tuesday drinking coffee, and I've been doing the installation on the wood stove, the Cubic Mini wood stove, and I have had to do some modifications, and there's always modifications on something, but I'll explain it in here in a moment. But so far, the installation went pretty good. I don't know what to add. There's a few things that didn't line up correctly, and it may have been something that I did. I did do some modifications, but I'm pretty sure that that did not cause the misalignment. So, anyways, let's go take a look at it. So you can see it mounted over there on the wall. Everything's just kind of a mess right now, and this is where I meant it. There isn't much room to navigate here. So let's go take a look at it. And I was sitting outside and a freaking bird pooped on my wood stove, so I'm gonna have to do something about that. So the first thing that I had to do for modification, well, I will say first, if you're gonna do an install on this, just be careful. A lot of these, some of these edges are really sharp. Not really sharp, but on the back sides they are. And so if you're like me and you're kind of a klutz, you could get cut. I was really careful of it because I kind of know how edge of, see how that's just like that, the edge of sheet metal is. And yes, the thermostat's still here. I'm not done with the installation. That'll be removed. I had to remove a mirror and I had to remove a smoke detector up higher. Let's go look at this. Okay, so the first thing I had to do to modify it, they had these screws, and of course I don't have one handy, but they were typical, I think, wood screws. And the install called for, the design called for putting the screws through for the mount and everything. This is actually mounted on a pretty strong mount. So really, the wood stove is just floating here. The shelf has nothing to do with the wood stove mounting on the mount. So what I had to do, because this is particle board or whatever it is, it's really thin. I don't know if you could tell that. It's about 2 inches thick overall, not the material, the whole wall, with those few thin layers. So I knew that the screws would not hold. And so what I had to do is put through bolts. If you can see, there's bolt heads right there. And I could use washers, but I didn't want it to pull through. So what I did is I used the aluminum strips. Now, these don't have washers on here. Like a dummy, it's another thing. Like a dummy, I didn't account for the spacing, the total spacing, and I'll tell you why in a second here. So, but these are going to hold nicely. And you can see how they're kind of bowed a little bit because I had to draw it in a little bit for a good secure connection, but I didn't want to do it too much to warp the wall at all or get any kind of sag happening. So let's go out in front and I'll explain a few things. So here's the screws that they wanted to go put the thing in, and I don't know why all the other screws are Phillips heads and the stove is flathead to mount it to the mount, but these are, you can see that or not, square heads. Now a lot of DIYers have probably bits that do square heads. I do also, except I've just kind of got low quality stuff, so the head's kind of twisted. But yeah, I don't know why they included square heads when everything else is either flathead or Phillips. It just is beyond me why they would do that. And maybe because it's a stronger bit to sink the screws, but you know, if people don't have it, then they're kind of SOL. The other thing on the mount, because I didn't measure properly and I didn't want to run to the store again, is these spacers. Now these spacers go between the shield, the mount, and the wall, and the screw goes through. These ones left over are for the flue shield, which I'll put up later. So I had to trim these down, I don't know, about 1/8 of an inch or so. I just used a Sawzall. It went pretty good. So, and then I filed them down so they were fairly smooth. And then I had to make sure I didn't torque it down too much because these would just punch through the wall. So that's one of the things that I had to do on the modification. So as it stands now, this is how I'm going to have it mounted. I don't know what else I was going to do. So one of the things I ran into is this plate here is supposed to be bolted to the legs. All right. And I don't know. I don't see any way that it could have been me that did the wrong thing. Because it's mounted flush up against the back there, and the stove is mounted to the back of it and the way it's supposed to be, so everything should be right on. But I don't know if you can see it or not. Get in here. I don't really have a lot of lighting to work with here. See the hole? The hole is at least 1/4 inch off from the hole on the bottom of the feet. Now you think, oh, well, that's easy, do a 180, right? Well, there is no way to do a 180 because of where the screw holes are. Could I drill holes and do it that way? First measure. Yeah, probably. But it should line up. Now, the one thing that I thought, well, maybe the feet are backwards or something. But there's no way. I mean, they have to go along this, right? That's how they're molded. So there's no way, and they're all universal, the same size. So, yeah, I just don't know. I don't know what the issue is. I'm not going to worry about it. The only drawback from having this stove here where I'm at is the bedding is right here. I'm not worried about it catching fire. What I'm worried about it is being too hot for me when it's running. So therefore, instead of spending I don't know how much they're charging for it, the $40-something for a side shield, I have a couple things in mind that I'm going to do. I can either get some green board and I could attach it here, maybe even attach it right here, screw it in the shield and then come out. I could do that. Of course, I'll always be catching myself on it. Or I could take this piece of stainless steel off and then turn it on its side and make a shield, as long as it go high enough. The other thought I had, possibly either do the green board or do some plywood, but in front I have some corrugated steel that I bought exclusively for putting the wood stove in the cargo trailer, and I've never used it, and I still might use it, but I thought about using that. So I'm on the fence about it. This shield, this doesn't need to be on there, really. It's aesthetics. The wood stove doesn't sit on it. It's just free floating, mounted on the back. So, is it me or is it just not focusing? Anyways, it doesn't need to be on there. And it also doesn't need to protect anything down below yet. Now I am planning to put a wood box on the bottom there, but if it gets enough airflow, it should be okay. I had on my test burns before, which I didn't show, but everybody's seen a wood stove burn before. These were sitting on plywood and the legs, and I would touch it intermittently, and it was getting warm. You didn't want to leave your hand there or your fingers there for a long time, but it wasn't super hot. It never did leave a char mark on the plywood, so it didn't get that hot. I'm sure over time though it might. So yeah, I'm just really on the fence about it. So this is getting a little long. The installation's pretty good. I think the kit's pretty good for the most part. what I have left to do, obviously, is put the flue up. I'm going to do that today, hopefully. I keep getting tasks and, you know, things like that. I don't know if you can see it, but I've got it marked out. Now, it's a 5-inch pipe that go through there. It's going to be a 3-inch double wall going through a 5-inch pipe higher up that's insulated. So, but they recommend doing a 7-inch hole, and I don't know the reason for that, except for maybe expansion, or so that the pipe isn't right next to the material that it goes through. But I might have to go find some insulation somewhere and, you know, pull it off and then go stuff it in the hole, and then put the boot on top and everything like that. So I'm just really having a hard time focusing where the camera is. So anyways, there's the installation for right now. I really struggled with a place to put this. This is really the only viable place. Everywhere else created more issues than it solved. You know, I gotta squeeze by this. And oh, and the other thing I wanted to cover on this panel, just be careful. These are very, very sharp. I don't know why they weren't, you know, maybe welded or something. I'm probably going to put some sort of heat tape or, you know, that aluminum tape on there. Just because I know how I am. I will catch myself on there. I already have a couple times. Didn't get cut. But if I reach underneath and you bring your hand up underneath or whatever, very sharp. And if I remove that, it won't be a problem. But anyways, so in mounting this, any other place, it would cause more problems than it would solve. I was going to mount it over here, except it would have it protruding, and that's not the problem. It would have it protruding, you know, a couple inches into the doorway. I can work with that. I can get around it. The problem is a few of the clearances. I'm going to be probably cutting this area out and putting in my Camp Chef stove, removing the burner and removing the furnace. So I'm going to be working in this area. The other thing I would have to do is this right here is in line with this, but then there's an overhang on the counter. So I would have to build something out here or cut this back to make it nice and flush, and then mount the wood stove and then run the pipe out here, remove the light obviously, and that kind of thing. So that wasn't a viable solution. Okay, so that's my install so far. Hopefully, I got a few projects that I got to do otherwise, but hopefully I can get that that stove completed today. I'm really hoping that I can, and then I can start using it. The other problem is that it hasn't been that cold at night. It's been in the mid 40s at night, you know, 70s during the day, and I just don't want to fire up that wood stove when it's only 45 degrees outside, or even 50, because I would just cook myself out of here. Yeah, I can open windows and vents and all that stuff, but yeah, it would just cook me out of here. So, but we'll see, you know. I do have to, I did watch a review, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he was talking about Envirologs for using on this, on his wood stove. And he's in Canada, so he's got a little bit colder temperatures, but apparently they're made out of compressed like recycled cardboard, and he said he'll burn one in the evening when he goes to bed, and they're still coals when he wakes up. So you know, for whatever that's worth. So anyways, that's the install, and I guess you call it part one. I'm not going to call the video part one, but that's part one. So I might do that. That'd be a first. All right. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. You know, any questions or any ideas or anything like that, just leave your comments below. And if you did like the video, please do a like and subscribe if you want more information, because we got projects coming up in the future. So, alrighty. Thanks all. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other.